Hey everyone, it's your Vancouver real estate update for the month of May. The stats just were released yesterday by the Vancouver Real Estate Board, and no surprise here, listings are still way down historically, the lowest in 20 years since the year of 2003. So what does this mean? Well, prices are rising dramatically faster than they were last year for a majority of areas of the Real Estate Board of Vancouver. A couple ones have not caught up yet, and I'm going to discuss which areas these are. But a majority of detached homes I'm seeing sell above 2023 assessment values. Not all. There are some areas still that I will discuss today and help you find these areas because a lot of prices are just skyrocketing right now. Bidding wars across the board, even for townhomes and condos right now, albeit not the increases that we are seeing for detached homes. I'm going to discuss the exact figures shortly here, but if you are on the sidelines thinking that the prices are going to stop going up, well, you're in for a rude awakening when you do start coming into the market later this year. The only good news I have, if you are a buyer, is that we're 2 months away from July, and that historically is a quieter time to find a property. But this year, since there's such a low amount of listings, even in July, I see it will be very competitive compared to most years. However, in general, it does get a little quieter, so you can come into the market this summer, but there's not going to be the selection that you usually would have in the middle of the year due to the fact that we haven't caught up in new listings for the month of April. And that's what I'm going to come into now, and then we'll discuss the areas that are rising dramatically. I'll give you some exact sale numbers in Vancouver and even out in Surrey on what the prices are exactly. So you're going to want to watch this video. Anyways, we're at a 20-year low for new listings across the board for the month of April, 4,307. That is 6 less than the month of March. In April, we always see a lot more listings in March. So I personally thought we were going to see a dramatic rise because we saw increases in prices. And so I thought neighbors would find out and start selling their home in April. But we are not seeing people want to sell this year. Specifically for detached homes. So it's a kind of alarming, and I don't see enough supply coming to market here in May and June. So prices will continue to trend upward, predominantly for detached homes and a little less for townhomes and condos. The total amount of listings currently available is 8,790 for April this year. And in March, it was 8,600. So only an extra 100 homes for sale in April versus March, and a dramatic amount of or way more buyers come to market in April than May. So there's just not enough going around, and we are seeing bidding wars. Some properties I've talked about on some of my short videos recently have seen 64 offers for houses out in Walnut Grove, Langley, and also many parts of Surrey are seeing massive price increases above 2023 assessment values. And I'll show you a couple examples soon here. Anyways, we're in a seller's market for all segments. We've been trending this way for many months, and we're firmly in a seller's market for detached houses now at 24% and 37% for condos and 40% for townhomes. But the funny thing is we're actually seeing the biggest price increases still for detached homes. But the townhome prices will probably be catching up in increases shortly. So if you, for example, if you bought a townhome out in Langley or Surrey around 850, 900,000, and you've seen the prices selling for around 800, 825, well, don't be surprised. The prices are coming back to 900 quite quickly. So if you are wanting to move up from a townhome to a house, it is a very good time to consider because the prices are rising very quickly here. But yeah, overall, incredible numbers here. Detached overall for the Real Estate Board of Vancouver for April is 2.9%. Condos, 2%, which is nothing to sneeze at, and 2.1% for townhomes. But it's just kind of deja vu compared to 2023, in my opinion, because we're seeing bidding wars for detached homes everywhere, massive increases. And I was saying the biggest decreases over the last 6 months were Bone Island, Squamish, Twas, and Ladner. Well, guess what was happening? People have been listening to my videos, and what do you know? The prices are rebounding dramatically, and they're still not even up to their 2023 assessment values. So my opinion is Twas and Ladner actually are still a hidden gem because they're still 5-10% below than what they were selling last year. So if you are looking for a house comparing Twas and Ladner, North Delta, Maple Ridge, I would highly suggest looking at Twas and Ladner and Maple Ridge because these properties are undervalued, in my opinion, about 5%, even 10% in some cases right now. But yeah, Bone Island up 8.3% for the month of April. An average house on Bone Island now is 1.456 million. I helped a client buy a house over there, beautiful 20,000 square foot property 3 or 4 years ago for 850,000. So 600,000 in a couple of years is nothing to sneeze about. Tsawwassen up 7.2%. I was just saying a few months ago that Tsawwassen was not seeing the rebound like Vancouver and Langley. Well, Tsawwassen's caught up quite a bit. Tsawwassen's now at an average house of 1.473 million. And Ladner's not far behind, 7.1% increase for the month of April. An average house there is 1.341. So generally the same prices as Port Coquitlam, Pitt Meadows, Langley, etc. Sunshine Coast up 6.6%, an average house there under $1 million. So Sunshine Coast under $1 million, and some homes in Maple Ridge and Chilliwack you can still find a house under $1 million. If you're moving to the Lower Mainland this year and you want to buy a house under $1 million, because then you can only or don't have to put a 20% down payment, because not everyone has $200,000 lying around in their piggy bank. But anyways, moving on, townhomes have really risen dramatically in the Vancouver West region, 6.5% for the month of April. Pitt Meadows at 4.7%, and Burnaby South 4.4%. But the increases are not as strong as the detached homes. There are prevalently more buyers still this year for detached homes versus townhomes and condos, but the prices or the supply is so low that we're seeing increased price activity in all segments. So for condo increases, Pitt Meadows leads the way for April, 4.8%. Maple Ridge at 4.3%, Richmond 3.4%, and Vancouver West at 2.5%. So if you own a condo in Kitsilano West, Olympic Village, downtown, your condo values are going up, but I'm not sure if they'll be quite at your 2023 assessment. I'm seeing some condo prices go above their assessment, and some are coming in below. So if you want to know more, give me a call and I'll help you know what the value is. Just want to give you some exciting sale numbers now. Talking about how the prices are going up. Well, property over in Dunbar, house, a bungalow built in 1930, 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 2,700 square foot house. Assessment value $2.4 million. It was asking $2.3 million, and guess what it sold for? Just under $2.7 million. So what does that mean? It means it went close to $400,000 over asking. And I know, John, it doesn't matter what it goes over asking. What it matters about what it goes over the assessment value. So it went $264,000 over its 2023 assessment value. And back in January, no one would have guessed that we would see price appreciation that much over the 2023 values. So pat on the back, whoever sold that house over in Dunbar, because they had a good return just a couple weeks ago. And then another house that I actually was considering making an offer on with a client, we decided not to because it was just too frantic. Assessment value $1.6 million. They underpriced it $1.5 million. We were thinking about offering about $1.65, $50,000 over assessment. We thought we'd have a strong chance. But just inquiring about the property, mind you, it's a nice house. It's on a cul-de-sac facing an elementary school with a backyard door entrance over to the school. So prime location of Fleetwood, Surrey. But a standard lot, 4 or 5,000 square feet, built in 1995. Mind you, it does have a rental suite in the bottom, so that helps. But again, assessment value $1.6 million. It sold for $1.8 million, $200,000 over the assessment value. So just mind-boggling numbers that we're seeing just due to the low supply. We're seeing massive amounts of people come to these open houses. There's just not enough to go around. But the only optimism I have for you if you are a buyer is that it should get a little quieter come the end of June when people go on holidays. And then by that time, I think the prices should level out. I don't see prices rising too much more by the end of June. But who knows? Maybe a lot of people will still be wanting to buy a house in July because they've missed out here in April and May. But in general, July does get quieter. So you could gamble and wait till July, but I don't see prices going down at all in July and August, level or even up a little more. So that's my opinion. But yeah, if you want to know a good area to buy a house right now, my number one pick would be Maple Ridge as number one. Well, actually, number one is Chilliwack in my opinion. If you want to pay less, around $1 million for a house, but Maple Ridge, there's still some decent homes around $1 million, 1.1, 1.2. And we haven't seen the values fully rebound yet in Maple Ridge and Tsawwassen and Ladner. Tsawwassen and Ladner is a gem in my opinion. by the ocean, sunny, good climate. So we are seeing the values creep up. But for last year in 2023, the values went up to around 1.6, 1.7 million for an average house, and you are still seeing a house around 1.5 to 1.6 in Tsawwassen. So there's still good value in Tsawwassen Lander, in my opinion. So something to look at if you are looking at upsizing from a townhome to a detached house this year. And if you are looking at Bone Island, get over there quickly because prices going up 8% is very alarming. And everyone wants to be away from the city still. So a lot of people evidently are still working from home with these massive price increases across the Lower Mainland. And so nothing's really much has changed in the past month since I last did an update video at the start of April. Bidding wars all over the place, low supply, firmly entrenched in a seller's market for all categories. The biggest price increases are for detached homes. But one thing I have noticed is that there are less first-time homebuyers in the market. It's more people selling off their condos and townhomes and moving into a detached house. That is what everyone wants. And with the speculation rising in Vancouver of upsizing to 3-4 plexes later this year, the value of land will just continue to increase. They're not opening up any more farmland to build anywhere. So townhome prices will go up in value quite quickly here. If you look at immigration, I just saw a stat how Quebec only allows 50,000 immigrants into their province each year versus Ontario, which is 5 times the amount. So an average house in Ontario is 850,000 versus 400,000 in Quebec. And an average house in BC is around 950,000 now. So a majority of immigrants are coming to BC, Alberta, and Ontario. So keep that in mind if you think or the townhomes might go down in value, the condos, because everyone's just buying a detached house. Well, no, the townhome prices will continue to rise as well because there's not enough building, and we are actually seeing a lower amount of building construction this year compared to years past. So the government of Canada is not doing enough to increase supply. They keep bringing in way too many people to Canada. They need to level it out and to spread everyone equally out across Canada. 1 million immigrants a year is fine, but it can't just all be to BC, Alberta, and Ontario. It needs to be spread out more into Quebec, Halifax, Manitoba, even up to the Yukon. So we need people all over the country to supply labor. We're short on labor across Canada, and we have an aging population, and so we do need people moving here to support our population. But it cannot all be just to Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto because, firstly, it's driving the prices up dramatically, way too quickly, and it's going to push normal people that have grown up in Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto away. Doctors cannot afford Vancouver and Toronto, which is very alarming. So what happens if there's no doctors? Well, that's not good. I don't want to know what's going to happen if there's no doctors, but I do know there are a lot of medical professionals moving to the United States where the incomes are much higher and the prices of a house is much lower. Just Bo Horvat the other day sold his house in Vancouver, and he bought a house for $1 million, a mansion over in Long Island, New York. So massive value if you want to go to the States, but you have to think of safety as well. And safety is huge on my opinion. So I loved living in Canada. Obviously, we've had some difficult times in the city of Vancouver recently, but if you are living in the suburbs, there's nowhere better to live in the world than Canada. Beautiful fresh air, oceans, mountains. That's my thoughts on Canada. It's a beautiful place to live. So if you are living over in Singapore or London, I have a couple of clients watching my video today. We have seen some rise in crime in Vancouver, but nothing out of ordinary compared to any other city. What happens? So, it's just a beautiful city to live, and the sun is out. Everyone's enjoying the biking on the seawall again, and I'm doing some spring skiing up in Whistler the last few weeks, and just getting out doing some hiking and got my boat on the waters, and I just go over to the islands and go around, catch some fresh prawns. I had some fresh prawns the other night for dinner. Those were really good. So I personally love living here. It is very expensive to live, but it's worth it because we have nice long summers and short winters. And even when it is wintertime, you're up in the mountains with the nice fresh snow. So it's not it for everyone, but it's one of my favorite places in the world. I've traveled all over the world, Thailand, Tokyo, Hong Kong, all over Europe, and I love moving back to Vancouver. or traveling back to Vancouver. And actually, one of my favorite cuisines is actually a Vietnamese pho and Japanese sushi. And I've been to Japan. My favorite sushi is here in Vancouver. My favorite pho is actually here in Vancouver versus elsewhere outside of Canada. So we're very fortunate to live here in British Columbia and specifically the Lower Mainland. And do what you can do to get a down payment ready to buy a property, because property values are just going to keep going up. I know everyone has been thinking that there's no way but down with the interest rate so high, but with inflation coming into check now, it looks like the prices are stabilizing, obviously going up. And the Fed just today raised the interest rate hike 25 basis points, and now they're signaling a pause. So the Bank of Canada will evidently pause as well going forward. And then who knows? Let's see where we go. But they don't actually need to cut interest rates at all right now for the economy, because house prices are rebounding very strongly. People have the money to buy properties. So don't wait forever. Don't wait on the sidelines. If you have the money, get in, and don't look at prices for 5 years. You'll come back and you'll see your house prices worth much more. Obviously, for condos, the price appreciation is not as quick. But so do everything you can do to get into a detached house, even if it's a house for $800,000-900,000 in the boonies, like in the townships outside of